Welcome back. You have tuned in to One on One. And today we're going one-on-one with an amazing organization. My name is Vin Dacquino. Today we have John Bourges.
Thank you for having me.
John, you represent the Joseph P. Dwyer Vet2Vet Program. What exactly is that?
To understand the Vet2Vet program in Putnam County, you have to understand or to know who Joseph P. Dwyer was.
Yeah, who is he?
Private First Class Joseph Dwyer was a combat medic, and shortly after 9/11, like many people did, he enlisted in the military. He was deployed in 2003 to Iraq as part of Operation Iraqi Freedom, where he worked as a combat medic.
Wow.
During his time there's a very iconic photograph of him taken cradling in his arms an Iraqi child that was injured. It was during an effort to move his unit into Baghdad, and while he was moving into Baghdad...
Here we go. And this is Joseph P. Dwyer?
That's Joseph Dwyer.
Wow, there he is.
There are other photographs that indicate the father. There was a lot of combat going on at that time. The father, in order to try and save his child, brought the child into the American lines, and Dwyer then moved forward to rescue the child and to take the child back.
And this photo appeared in papers?
Magazines, newspapers, covers. It became the iconic...
It is a great shot.
It is. It's the iconic photograph of what many people believe to be what the American service member is, and what America does overseas. That here is this individual doing this.
And why, after they came home, they suffered repercussions, you know, the things they saw.
Yeah, he was a combat medic, but also that photograph, although you can't really tell from the photograph, there are a lot of other people that are there. And he sort of felt that he was singled out in some manner, and became very popular, became very famous. But in addition to that, when he came back from Iraq, he was suffering from PTSD, for which he was being treated at the VA. He was also being treated for substance abuse and depression. In 2008, he succumbed, as it's been pointed out, to those inner demons, and he died as a result of the PTSD, the drug use, and his depression. The family, his friends, people that he worked with, people that he was deployed with, one of the common things that they had noted was that Joe was himself. He was the person they all knew as Joseph Dwyer when he was just with other veterans. He wasn't a member of a VFW, he wasn't marching in a parade, he wasn't at a lodge, he was just one veteran interacting with another veteran. As a result of that, Lee Zeldin, who at that time was a state senator, and his area covered Suffolk County, which is where Joseph Dwyer was from originally. And they instituted a bill which started funding for the Joseph P. Dwyer Vet2Vet PTSD program. It started in 4 counties in the state, Suffolk County being one of them, Saratoga, and then it's been expanded to 15 counties and Putnam County. I am the program director for the Putnam County director for the Putnam County program.
There we go.
That program started about 2 years ago. So now it's in 15 counties in New York.
Wow. And so the program represents what sometimes happens to our boys.
Correct.
As a result of being exposed to some pretty scary, frightening things.
The Dwyer program, as much as it's involved with veterans, it's open to all veterans. You don't necessarily have to have served in combat. You don't have to have been deployed overseas. It's a program where one veteran can deal with another veteran. Veterans go through something that is very unique to their lives. Many people have done it for 20 years, even longer. And a peer-to-peer program has been found to be the most beneficial. If you think about it, in any other instance, people with substance abuse can relate to other people who have walked in the same shoes. Even mothers with triplets or whatever it may be, they can relate to somebody else who has shared the same experience. So the Dwyer program was started. We're not therapists, we're not psychiatrists. What we are other veterans.
So you talk to them about what they're going through. You offer an ear for people who need to get some of this out from inside.
In addition to that, we do meet the first Wednesday of every month in Patterson. We also have a PTS call-in, which is the second Monday of every month. They can always call our telephone number if they're looking for advice. But we also do things such as a free movie day, which is open to veterans who can take their children or their grandchildren, depending on which war they might be a veteran of. We also are trying to form a book which will relate experiences for other veterans in Putnam County. People that wrote letters home from basic, from Afghanistan, from Iraq, but also the person that we owe a great deal to are the Vietnam veterans. The Vietnam veterans did a lot for us and for the younger veterans that are
And I
returning
believe
home now.
we have your contact information up on the board.
That's correct. 278-8387 is the number for the office.
And they can call and just say, listen, I'm having a hard time. I served. And again, they don't necessarily have to have been in a war.
Correct. The Dwyer program is completely anonymous. But also we have a very good working relationship with the Veteran Services Administration and the Veteran Services Agency of Putnam County, which is Carl and Art, as well as Brennan Mahoney. So if there are people that you need to be referred to, we have very good access and working relationships with
So
them.
if they're having a tough time just day by day, I mean, just maybe getting a job or making friends or just dealing with their demons.
We get together
it's
when
a
we get
support
together. It is a support group. And when we get together on Wednesday, we talk about everything. We try and keep politics out of the,
Yeah,
the
oh boy.
equation. But we talk about movies or theater or books that we've read, characters that we liked. And it's just it's a cup of coffee, it's a donut with somebody who's been in the same circumstances that you've been in. And during that conversation, if there is the need to be referred to another agency or that you need other contacts, you now have a basis of individuals that you can count on that might be able to refer you to another business, or people may have contacts at the Veterans Administration, or they may be able to guide you about how to get transportation to the VA in the Bronx or to Castle Point. But again, we're open to all veterans, regardless of their discharge
Yeah,
status.
and it could be someone who just left the service
Correct.
this year or last year or 10 years ago.
And there's also, we're finding now with many veterans that at one time, when they came home from war, they had families to raise, they had jobs to do. And now that many of those things are taking a second seat, the family has moved away, the job, he's now retired. Now the thoughts and the things that they endured when they were in war are now coming back to haunt them.
Yeah.
But again, it's not only just the veteran. We're trying to also reach out to family members and the spouses, and also understand females play a large portion in our veterans population now. But also we try and reach out to the family members. Family members sometimes are the first individual that will reach out to us and say, my child, my spouse, my uncle, they're having issues. Who can I call? And we're not judgmental. We don't ask to see a DD-214 or your discharge papers. We don't ask if you're a member of a VFW or an American Legion. All we are is basically a resource of one veteran speaking to another. So we have female veterans. We have family members of veterans that are part of the Dwyer group. So we should be able to get you in contact with somebody who's walked in the same shoes that you have, has experienced the same issues that you have.
So whatever issues they may have, even though you're not a referral service, you do have places that you could refer these people. And you've had experience with people that might be in similar situations.
Yes.
So you can alleviate some of the fears, some of the concerns that some of them have. You know, I know, you know, I work with a lot of students, I work with a lot of writers, and when these people write their memoirs or tell me about their life, I'm always surprised that, you know, as we said, it's not necessarily combat. It could be anything that your dreams, your life gets interrupted by your time in that service. And what happens in that time could be detrimental.
You'd be amazed at dealing with veterans how much they're able to tap into this inner portion of themselves. We have people that are artists, that are writers, that are photographers.
Yeah.
And what we're trying to do with the book that we're trying to put together, so again, I would suggest to anybody if they want to get in contact with the Dwyer program.
And I suggest you get in touch with me.
Yeah.
You know I work with writers
Yes.
every single week at the Mahopac Library. And what a wonderful way to unload some of that garbage inside. And not garbage, but it becomes garbage when it sits and sits and sits. And it has to be unloaded somewhere. And writing is such a wonderful way to get in there and clear out some of these things. Your organization is a wonderful way to know that you're not alone.
Correct.
And that people have different reasons for wanting to give up or for straying in wrong directions.
Right.
And just because you took the wrong path doesn't mean you have to stay there.
Correct.
And there's people that will take your hand and walk you back to where you need to be.
Absolutely. And then that's the advantage of being in a peer-to-peer organization or in a Vet2Vet program. The person that you're speaking to is a veteran, or the family member, or the female veteran, whoever it may be. And this is somebody that you might be able to relate to, but at least you know that we're non-judgmental. Nobody is. There used to be this conversation that many people had amongst their family members when they came back from war. And the idea was, why can't you just be the way you were before you left?
Yeah.
And the idea and the answer is basically because they're not.
Yeah,
They
and
are different people now.
And let's face it, some of those people who went into the service went in not the greatest shape sometimes. And they went in hoping to find salvation in being in the service. And sometimes it worked, and sometimes it didn't. Sometimes being away from home and all of that exasperated the situation. So that could happen.
True.
And there's no shame in that.
Correct.
You know, the only shame is in not correcting it. And your organization offers the kind of support that some of these people need.
Well, that was the reason why it was created. And again, it's a non-judgmental environment. Nobody here is saying, you know, what they went through was better than what you went through.
Get it fixed.
We are all there to try and make sure that nobody is left behind. There's another term for veterans, that you don't leave anyone behind. And what the Veterans Program, specifically in Putnam, is trying to do. And there are about 10,000 veterans in Putnam. And we deal with
10,000 veterans in Putnam?
The population is about 10%
Woo!
of the Putnam County veterans.
Wow, that's huge.
What we're finding is that there's a veterans residence, but also we're trying to just do outreach where people can come to some place outside of their comfort zone with other individuals, with other people, just to get them acclimated to being back into society again. There is, when I was younger and growing up, you know, you went home when you were told to go home when the streetlights came on. Nowadays, people seem to be more inside and more isolated. And so many times that's the difficult task, is to try and find those individuals that have literally isolated themselves. And we don't come to somebody and say, oh, geez, you're suffering from PTSD, please come with me. That's not our answer. That's not our task. Our task is, you're another veteran. This is what we do. Would you like to join us?
Often, isolation leads to depression. And people need to get out with others. It's so easy to just lock yourself in and just say, it'll go away. It doesn't. It doesn't just go away.
Denial seems to be a very good answer for many people. But again, none of us are the therapists, none of us are the psychiatrists. We are just one veteran relating to another veteran.
And these are people like yourself that have other professions.
Yes.
I mean, they're working people who volunteer time to help each other.
We have volunteers, but we also have people that work for the Dwyer program.
Oh, wow.
That has a caveat to it, in that we want you to be a veteran. There we ask you for your discharge papers and your DD-214, so that, you know, you may want to volunteer. That is one thing. You may be a family member of a veteran and feel that you want to be involved. Absolutely fantastic. But if we want to do a Dwyer peer-to-peer program, a Vet2Vet program, one of the things that we ask is that you are a veteran. And it's regardless of service dates. It is regardless of discharge status. We just ask that if you need something, contact.
This may seem like a strange question, but volunteers, do they have to be vets?
No.
No.
Individuals can volunteer and help out the program in many different ways. For a lot of times, people that come to, we do a lot of what are called tabling events, where we'll set up a table and we'll have pamphlets and we'll have information. We ask for maybe an email address, so that if we have a movie night for your kids or your grandchildren, we can notify you in some way. Those don't necessarily have to be veterans. They can be a volunteer that wants to help. You work for a restaurant or something and you want to volunteer your time to help us. That's not an issue.
Or someone like me who works with writers. Even though I'm not a vet myself, I can help vets
Absolutely.
tell their story.
Absolutely.
So I shouldn't say, well,
we'll have you come on Wednesday and you can help us write something.
there you go. Absolutely. I on the air. You're hearing it right here. If you need me, I am there for you. I will more than gladly help them write things. I mean, it could be as simple as a poem. It doesn't have to be a novel.
Correct.
And it could be a journal, a journal that no one else sees. You know, you keep it in the drawer, but writing it is therapy.
It's amazing. We recently, the last Wednesday we met in Patterson, we had photographs of individuals. A great deal of the veterans today, specifically those that are veterans of Afghanistan and Iraq, owe a great deal to the Vietnam veteran, the veteran of the Vietnam era. When they came home from war, they were treated abysmally. And many of them have vowed that that's never going to happen. So you see a lot of gratitude aimed at veterans of OEF and OIF. But and for some, it's a little embarrassing.
Yeah.
But you get together with other veterans, you find that there is a common core. And so you see a letter that is written by a 20-year-old, although now he's in his late 60s, when he is first deployed to Vietnam, and you'd be surprised at how similar that letter is to a young man who's 20 years old who's deployed to Afghanistan. Right. There are a lot of similarities that the veteran understands that the civilian does not. So those are all things that we try and bring about in the Dwyer program. And again, this program for us, for me, is for Putnam County, but we're able to help anybody. We're not going to say, no, we can't help you because you're from Rensselaer County. There's somebody in Rensselaer County that we can refer you to. And if there's not somebody there, we've had calls from people from California. They just didn't know who to turn to, and they saw our name on Facebook. They Googled the name. They came up with a telephone number. So, like us on Facebook, call us, call the office. Any way that we can get in contact with you.
Their problems become your problems in a sort. So if we have, for example, a young man or woman who has now come back, doesn't matter if that person served 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 2 years ago.
There are no restrictions.
Doesn't matter if they're having trouble finding a mate, or if they're having trouble finding a job. If they're having trouble, that's what counts.
Correct. And again, there's no restrictions to saying that you had to be a veteran from a foreign war, meaning that you served in a combat zone.
Right.
There are a lot of things that people did in trauma centers that were outside in Germany, other places overseas. There are other, what they call MOS, things that people have done, and then we're there to help them.
Yeah. I mean, an example, I know of a situation of a young man who was on duty taking care of soldiers whose lives were lost at war. And the person was on funeral duty and attended a number of funerals that really had an impact on this person's life. So it doesn't necessarily have to be war. It has to be maybe a sudden realization of something that jars your life and makes you think, and it could put you in depression. Or again, have an interruption where this person had a dream and then comes back and finds that can't get a job, or can't get a girlfriend, or a boyfriend, or whatever. So that's one of the things I wanted to stress, is that this is a buddy system.
It is. And in the military, a lot of people will tell you that you have to have your battle buddy, and that there's somebody that's watching your back, and there's somebody that's going to be with you. And if you are in Putnam County, if you're in Suffolk County, anywhere you may be, you need a battle buddy.
Putnam County always fascinates me because in my line of work, I see so many people helping other people. Many of those people are vets.
If you look at a lot of
county
things,
is really good.
You have the Veterans Park, you have the Gold Star Mothers statue, you have the Purple Heart Highway. It is a very veteran-friendly county.
I bring children around on school buses, and I take them on Sybil's route, but I also take them to the Vet Museum.
Yes.
And give them an opportunity to see what that museum has to offer. Some people aren't even aware that there is a museum
The Veterans
in
Park.
Putnam County.
Yeah.
And there are so many things to see. And, you know, one thing that keeps ringing in my ears is what someone said to me, freedom is never free.
Correct.
There's a cost. And sometimes the cost is individual.
Whether or not those wounds are visible or whether or not those wounds are invisible.
That's right.
They are still wounded by war.
Yep.
There are many books, one by Dr. Tick about the
Yep.
wounded warrior, and basically that all warriors are wounded in some manner.
Yep.
It's how we take care of our veterans that's important. Putnam County has stepped up by having the Dwyer program to show that we will take care of our veterans.
Yep.
We have the Veterans Residence. You have several individuals with the Veterans Services Administration and the Veterans Administration that are here in Putnam County that do marvelous things for veterans. And if there's something that we can do for you, our answer is not, no, we can't do anything. Our answer is we'll try.
Yep.
Whatever we can do, we're going to try.
So here's a message for you. Mental wounds can be fatal too. When a young man or woman falls into a state of depression, feels that there's no place to turn, there is a place to turn. One thing about vets that I've learned in my life, vets support vets. They reach out. This program, that's what this program is. That's what this program is about. Even though they may not walk you to that job or invite you on blind dates to meet the right person, they help you bring your mind to the mental state it needs to be in, a positive outlook to life. When everything seems to be lost, they help you be found. That's what this organization is. And John, it's people like you that help to bring people out of the cold loneliness of depression.
We can try and help.
Yep.
Sometimes it is just having that cup of coffee with somebody else
There you
and
go.
sharing an experience.
There you go. So I want you to tell me absolutely to the point, how often do you meet? Where do I contact you? Now, I know we've had your contact address out there. I want these people to know how to find you.
Well, I would tell you that you can like us on Facebook. It is the PFC Joseph P. Vet2Vet Program.
There you go.
You can also call me at 278-8387. That's an 845 number.
Yep.
That's our office number. I may not be there, but there's an answering machine. Leave a message. I'll get back to
Yep,
you.
I've done that,
Yeah.
and you answered immediately,
call you
which is
back.
wonderful.
We
Where are
al-
the meetings? When are the meetings?
Right now, we have our meetings the first Wednesday of every month at the Patterson Recreation Center from 6 to 8. There is a PTSD phone-in the second Monday of every month where it's a number and there's an access PIN number. You can call that. There'll be a veteran also that's aware of PTSD and treatment. And we're also looking to expand our program into Kent, possibly in the next couple of months. So
Wow,
that we'll
great.
meet again someplace in Kent, maybe at their town hall. But they can always get in contact with me. You can get in contact with the Veterans Services Administration, with either Art or Carl, and we'll be able to direct you, steer you in the right way. But again, first Wednesday of every month, Patterson Rec Center. There's
So
just a
that number
bunch of
serves as sort of a hotline, too.
Correct.
When things are really down, you don't have to wait for the meeting.
If there is a crisis, my suggestion would be to all veterans, to any veteran, if there is a crisis, there is the crisis helpline. You can call the VA, there's a crisis helpline, and you push 1, and that will get you in contact with a crisis counselor. Anyone that is in crisis, my suggestion would be to call that number, to call the VA, to call the crisis helpline. And they will help you immediately. And what we can do is, if you need to have access to that, if you think it's a good idea that maybe your family member should have, maybe put it on the magnet or something, whenever you see us, we have access to all of that. You can put
So
on
you're a resource. You have all those numbers that they need.
Correct.
So even though you may not be able to get them a job or get them whatever it is they need, you know where to send them
We
to
can
make
help.
that
It's the
happen.
best that we can try and do.
Yeah, you can try.
I can't guarantee everybody gets a job. I
Nope.
can't guarantee, as they said in
But at
Joseph,
least you can put them on a path.
they don't know whether or not anything that they would have done would have saved Joseph Dwyer. They don't know
Yeah.
whether or not changing a medication or doing something else. But they did realize that
Something
time
should have been done.
Something should have been done. It was a shame that a young man at 31 years of age lost his life several years after he returned back from home, and lost, again, leaves behind a wife and he leaves behind a child. But if they had done something, maybe just speaking to another vet, that would have been the answer. We don't know, but at least we're going to try.
Yep. Well, Joseph Dwyer, wherever you are, understand that your life had purpose. And there was a number of people that needed help and now may get it in your name. And yours, John Bourges.
Vinny, thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for reaching out. Community is not a community without people like you.
Absolutely.
To support it.
Thank you for your support.
Yep. And thank you for turning in and tuning in to this show. When you know of someone who needs help, reach out. That's what a community really is. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Vinny.